Love is when all emotions fuse together and unite into true passion. This passion is the force which moves us forward without us wanting to move. We just do and never once look back at the path we have created. Only in moments of truth and danger we notice where we stand. So what will you do? Protect your love and passion, or pierce through the truth and dangers ahead? Of all things you could have chosen, your answer does not matter. All is needed to love. I am the one you have awaited, the unexpected who teaches the art of piercing hearts. So don't worry, I got your back. The lance works on threes, switching between defensive and offensive options repeatedly. Just knowing that alone will improve your lance play significantly. The general concept is the following: defensive option into stage 1, into stage 2, into stage 3, into a defensive option, or from a stage 3 into a Silkbind move into a defensive option. Any offensive option that is not a Silkbind move can be cancelled by a defensive option or any Silkbind move. The cycle then continues endlessly. To keep this principle inside of your head, simply remember the Dodo Gamma principle: defensive, offensive, defensive, offensive. In Sunbreak, the amount of switch skill combinations is so ridiculous, covering all possible styles seems impossible. Which is why I have done my best to get close to the impossible. All options in this guide are marked with different symbols to imply key information about them. Earth stands for options that greatly limit your mobility. Cloud stands for options with high mobility. Sun stands for our burning rage we all share, making us stronger. A cool way of saying that sun moves buff the player. Moon stands for timing, essentially counters. Gold stands for an option that will greatly impact your playstyle should you decide to use them. Let's begin. Your defensive options are guard, guard counter, power guard, leap, guard dash, sheathing retreat, insta block, shield tackle, anchor rage, waiting, and twin vine. The lance has the absolute strongest shield of all weapon types. Use guard to block incoming attacks, projectiles, gas, and other people trying to mess with you. The skill guard up allows you to block monster attacks that you aren't able to block normally and reduce incoming damage. Any point in the guard skill will decrease your knockback while blocking. The guard counter buffs your next 3 thrusts after blocking successfully. Your main tool to keep your damage output high while making defensive phases where you don't do anything but blocking worth the time wasted. You always want to convert a defensive option into damage, so to speak, an offensive option. While you are in a guard counter, you can press the dodge button to go into a power guard, an absolute defense mode that will block everything around you as long as you have stamina. Important to note is, you might lose stamina really quickly, but if you get hit while power guarding, you stop losing stamina. Some specific monster attacks simply can't be power guarded, but most, especially multiple hit attacks, are super easy to block this way. The only real bad thing about the power guard is you being stuck in one spot, wasting time and elemental damage still coming through. From a power guard, you can go into an empowered, high thrust, or Silkbind move. While power guard does not block the anomaly explosion, you can reposition by doing a leaping thrust out of a power guard. Every basic leap you do resets your 3 stages. If you leap thrust, you just hit 2 stage 1 thrusts, not advancing any stage further. Leap is very useful to dodge or reposition yourself for precise attacks. Should you accidentally lose track of your pacing, simply do any leap to start over. You can leap after any action and also input a direction by pressing dodge at the same time as a directional input. Pressing dodge by itself will make you leap backwards for a short distance, while pressing dodge together with a back directional input will make you long leap backwards twice the distance. Evade extender increases the range of leap. The guard dash allows you to block while moving towards a desired direction. It almost works like a leap, but you trade the freedom of movement for utility. After a guard dash, you have 3 options. Guard dash into shield attack into stage 1, guard dash into leaping thrust into stage 2, or guard dash into any of the 2 into a silk bind move. You can also input a silk bind directly after a guard dash, which is great to safely connect your twin bind kunai to the monster, but more about that later. While shield attack deals stun damage, leaping thrust takes 3 times, making it great to stack elements and ailments. Guard thrust is the most useless basic option the lance has, and it is a wonder it hasn't been switched for anything else 3 games ago. Nothing speaks for this attack, and there are only negatives attached to it. Guard thrust is uninspired and a relic from the early, more simple days of Monster Hunter. If I could, I would personally hunt down and capture whoever is in shield charge of the lance weapon design to finally give us something fun and of substance. Here are some of my ideas. Maybe this inspires them to do at least something with guard thrust. It's a waste of space. Sheathing Retreat is the perfect repositioning tool to get out of a risky situation. You pull yourself backwards into the air, sheathing your weapon. This is a great opportunity to either land on ground to use one of your items, or use dash attack or shield charge mid-air to get back onto the monster. It synergizes very well with both. The so-called insta-block makes your guard animation longer, but adds frames that allow you to parry any incoming attacks, even other players. With a parry, you do not lose stamina, health, or receive any recoverable health. The window to hit this insta-block is quite tight and changes your way of playing entirely. All you really lose with insta-block in comparison to guard is the ability to immediately go into a guard counter or power guard, and you can only make up for a strong triple thrust combo by turning a parry into a double hit cross slash. Cross slash can be aimed in any direction and is only accessible by parrying successfully. After a parry, you can input any other offensive or defensive option, endlessly stringing combos together. By the way, you can parry flashes. Shield tackle is very limiting, but adds an incredible amount of utility to your playstyle. With a simple directional input alone, you move a short distance, blocking everything in your path, dealing stun damage should you hit something with it. Mind that Shield Tackle deals actual damage and is not just a short leap. While its stun value is not the greatest, you can mix this guard point on demand into your combos without any limitations whatsoever. Shield Tackle can be followed up with any defensive or offensive option, including Silkbind moves, not just mid and high thrust. Anchor Rage is a Silkbind that costs you 1 Wirebug and has a medium recharge timer. Depending on how strong the attack of a monster is, the damage boost will be red, orange, or yellow, while yellow is the best one. In Rise-based game, Anchor Rage was tied to knockback received, so do not worry about using the guard skill in your armor set. Anchor Rage changes your way to play entirely due to you having to keep track of your damage buff at all times. A lot of monsters have multiple hit attacks, so watch closely to time it right. While most weapons are being rewarded for an aggressive playstyle, the lance is dependent on the monster's aggression, turning a monster's attack into damage. Every opening a monster shows has to be judged by the player to figure out what to do next. Sometimes, waiting is your best defensive option. All counters you have a period of time where they are the most effective. Putting one more thrust into your combo can mean that you won't be able to time your next counter. You figure out when to use what. Many players look at Twin Vine as this useless jump move you can't even utilize because you lack proper aerial attacks. But you know what? It is the exact opposite. Twin Vine is the most broken move ever since it has been introduced to Monster Hunter Rise, and it even got buffed in the Sunbreak expansion. While attached to a monster, you receive no knockback while blocking, your stamina consumption for blocking is reduced, your consistent attacks increase the chance of you becoming the focus of the monster, and on top of that, Twin Vine's useless jump move includes a guard point. The biggest joke about this whole thing is that the connection stays for 55 seconds at the cost of 1 Wirebug. If you aren't using Twin Vine, you are saying you don't want to have an entire armor set dedicated to the lance in one button. Having a spammable guard point for every single jump makes you practically invincible. And the guard point isn't even new or part of the Sunbreak buffs. This has been in Monster Hunter Rise base game the whole time. Though, how do you utilize it? Twin Vine is a really weird aerial block to close the gap between you and the monster while giving you essential utility to stay on top of the monster. To make use of the so-called closed jump, only accessible through Twin Vine, let's quickly talk about aerial options. When you are mid-air, you can do a jumping thrust that deals mount damage, indicated by the blue shine on the numbers. After landing, your next thrust will be a stage 2. Think about it like the one jumping thrust simply replacing your first ground thrust of the triple thrust combo. The cool thing about aerial attacks is you can input a direction where the attack should land mid-air. That means you can aim dash attack and shield charge mid-air, throwing yourself into the monster. Shield bashing mid-air with a massive shield is quite fun, especially when your goal is to stun monsters. To make the best use of aerial options in general, you need to learn about super dashing, which I will explain later. These are all the defensive options you have available. Now that you know how to protect your love and passion, it is time to pierce their hearts. Your offensive options are mid thrust, high thrust, wide sweep, dash attack, shield charge, spiral thrust, and skyward thrust. Mid and high thrust are your basic attacks to precisely hit your desired spot. High thrust deals more damage than mid thrust, but the third hit of both deals the same amount of damage. That means hitting a mid thrust in stage 3 is as effective as a stage 3 high thrust. The basic wide sweep isn't really that great, unless you charge it. Charging the wide sweep takes a bit, but its damage is worth every time you see an opening for it. The charged wide sweep always deals the same amount of damage no matter in which stage you are hitting it. Out of combos, wide sweep finds good use when a monster is in your intracardinals or on the ground. I feel like most people tend to underestimate the choo-choo train by now. You can't effectively glitch yourself into the monster anymore, like back in the old days, but its damage is way higher than that of shield charge. With dash attack, you can close the gap between you and the monster effectively, going into a finishing thrust, which turns into a finishing twin thrust after reaching maximum speed. I will explain more about the so-called super dash attack and finishing twin thrust later. Shield charge sucks. Your stamina dry really damn quickly, and the distance you dash is a mini gold crown compared to the dash attack. While you are shield charging, you are able to block, finishing into either an undeflectable thrust or a shield attack that deals heavy stun damage. With an ability like Slugger, you're gonna be able to increase your utility even more, stunning monsters for days. And to be fair, its damage is fine. I just couldn't resist adding a joke about sucking your stamina dry. If you have seen my revolutionary heavy bowgun guide, you know I have to insert a certain reference into this part of the video. God gave us eyes at the front of our heads, so we can look forward to the future. Spiral thrust makes you dash twice, letting you input the direction while dealing heavy damage. Generally, a very good way to inflict raw damage. After the second dash, you can pierce through with a special thrust that deals extra damage. There are also a few frames to deflect an incoming attack, which, if deflected successfully, gives you a damage buff indicated by your lance glowing blue, just as if a piece of heaven itself wanted to break through. And so from the heavens they pierce those unrelenting hearts, revealing the never-ending skies ahead. Skyward thrust throws you up into the air with one heavy hit to then pierce the earth from above, hitting multiple times, inflicting severe elemental damage. If you time it right, you can avoid a lot of monster attacks without much trouble. It's quite hard to aim, and on the way up, you can still be knocked away even with Twin Vine attached. Make sure to scream your made up finishing move and put your sunglasses on after a successful kill. What's that? Is your jaggy brain melting, eh? We're just getting started. Did you forget what the lance is about already? How about this? Always remember, love is complicated. It is the combination of multiple emotions fused together. So let me teach you how to fuse. Everything I covered so far is just basic knowledge to utilize the lance and shield. By combining it all, you will become the Unbreakable. The combos you can do with the lance sound quite limiting, but keep in mind, you decide what techniques you use for certain situations. And don't forget, all this stuff, you can chain it together endlessly. You just have to do it right. Guard is completely outclassed by Instablock because with Instablock equipped, you can enter a guard counter after any basic offensive option. Should you have decided to improve a lance seriously, you should always use Instablock due to guard adding nothing to your kit. Use the triple thrust for consistent damage when you don't have better options available or you messed up your combo. In general, when your jaggy brain can't keep up with what is happening, the triple thrust combo is your safest bet. After successfully guard countering, your next 3 thrusts, mid or high, will deal more damage. That means using guard counter for buffed triple thrusts is always better than the regular triple thrust combo. Since the White Sweep is chargeable, it's one of the best ways to deal raw damage. Most of the time, you will only be able to get one fully charged White Sweep in before the monster repositions or attacks. This is what I consider the single White Sweep combo. Try to remember these 2 single White Sweep combos. High, wide, mid or high, and wide, high, mid or high. If there is a very long opening, you will have enough time to pull out your massive lance to White Sweep their weak spot. The double White Sweep combo takes a long damn time, but the damage is absolutely worth it. You can also put any Silkbind thrust at the end to finish her off. While in the air, you can aim your dash attack and shield charge as I already explained. Shield bash cancelling is when immediately after hitting the monster with your shield, dealing stun damage, you input a jumping thrust to cancel shield charge mid-air. That means you won't shield charge on the ground after landing. Let me introduce you to Super Dash Attacking, a technique to make every Wirebuck dash, Wirebuck fall, and Twin Vine jump worth it. From the moment you start the dash attack, after roughly 3 seconds, you start super dashing, which you can end with a finishing twin thrust that deals heavy damage. The same principle applies while you are in the air. That means when you use Silk Bugs or Twin Vine to get into the air, the 3-second timer starts the moment you are inputting a dash attack. If you want to turn aerial movement into damage effectively, input dash attack immediately after airborne to hit a finishing twin thrust as early as possible. Sheathing retreat into dash attack shows you this principle very clearly. Or you just do this, which is quite repetitive, almost boring, I might say. To be fair, this is your bread and butter combo in terms of elemental damage. Helps with stacking abnormal status as well. Don't give in. It's ruining the beauty of this weapon. I've tried so hard to get into you. You wouldn't just throw this all away, won't you? After all, it is. These are the skills that are of most relevance to the lance. Skills such as attack up, crit boost and more are used by all weapons anyways, which is why they aren't included here. I will briefly explain the key and situational armor skills so you understand why they are relevant. Just 1 point in guard up lets you block some unblockable attacks. It also reduces damage while blocking. Being able to block near to everything is essential for the lance. With offensive guard, every time you block or counter with your shield, you gain a percentual damage buff, which is extremely easy to keep up with the lance. In multiplayer, one level of flinch free is absolutely essential, unless you prefer to literally do nothing for an entire quest. Early in the game, your only option to get this skill is being lucky at the Melding Pot of Haze, page 2. A Brace Jewel can be crafted in high rank with 2 Bloodrun Jewels, 2 Zenogre Carapaces, and 2 Mizutsune Claws Plus. Diversion increases the chance of becoming the focus of the monster should you attack consistently. For any type of counter style, diversion is key to trigger counters as much as possible, especially in multiplayer. Generally, you don't really need diversion should you play solo or with your... As much as I like focus in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, focus doesn't do anything for the lance. Now that this is cleared up, let's cover these situational skills. You do not need Constitution should you keep up your Twin Vine buff or are very good at parrying. Parries do not cost stamina, they only pause stamina recovery. Heroics is the ultimate skill for counter-style players that have mastered buff management. Lance already is close to invincible if you play it right, so your health bar can become an actual additional mechanic to boost your damage. The damage boost from Heroics is incredibly strong, so it's a very high risk, high reward skill. Having a high level of sharpness has always been important for the lance to reduce bounces. Master's Touch lets you keep your sharpness should you crit, making this skill very useful for any high affinity sets. With Mind's Eye level 2, you can prevent bouncing entirely and even increase damage dealt when hitting hard targets, such as Tetranodon's back. The Seregio set includes a skill called Blade Scale Hone, which can be triggered by your basic leap. Should you dodge a lot, the sharpness you gain from Blade Scale Hone is extremely good. Maximum Might increases your damage should your stamina be full for a short period of time. Should you mainly use Silkbind counters and parries, Maximum Might can be kept up a majority of the time because you don't lose stamina. Chain Crit is a skill that increases your damage and affinity should you attack consistently. Because the lance can endlessly string options together, Chain Crit is pretty amazing to have in your set. Goodness, how could I forget? Evade Extender lets you tippy the toe around the monster with ease. I say, find your own amount of Evade Extender points you want to put into your armor set, as all your basic leaps will be affected by it. Because positioning is so important to the lance, this can make or break your playstyle. I personally don't even use Evade Extender, but don't tell Rurikhan or Gaijin. Maybe showing others the stars is more romantic than a dance to you. Should stunning monsters be your thing? Try bringing Slugger with your set and slam your shield into their face with passion. Oh, right, I almost forgot. I have something special for you. Sunbreak has added the ability to switch between switch skill sets containing switch skills that can be switched for other switch skills by doing a so-called switch skill swap. Just for clarity, I will speak of switch skill sets as scrolls and refer to switch skill swaps as scroll switching. I hope you don't mind, because this is getting ridiculous. The best advice I can give you about making scroll sets for the lance is to choose your main techniques to deal damage and then use switch skills to support them. By switching between your scrolls, you can make impossible combinations possible. Here are a few useful ones I've discovered so far. Of course, these aren't set in stone. Go and play with them. From a scroll switch, you can instantly go into a guard counter and chain into a power guard. There is no excuse to use guard anymore, unless you have a jaggy brain. Using the scroll switch dodge is an easy way to reposition yourself for either a spiral thrust or a skyward thrust. You can switch scrolls at any time. A very good way to constantly be in the scroll you need is to scroll switch after a triple thrust. This also allows you to either reposition or even delay a guard counter, readying yourself for the next string of attacks. The buffs from Anchor Rage and Spiral Thrust can be combined. Should you get any of the two, do a scroll switch to get the other one. Keeping up both buffs is a masterful art, perfect for those who want more complexity. To bounce between the monster, you normally use leaps to reposition yourself after your triple thrust combo. By attaching Twin Vine and jumping far away with a sheathing retreat, you gain a fresh look about the situation you are facing. From here on, it's totally up to you to jump back in with Twin Vine using the guard point, using a dash attack or shield charge to reconnect on ground level, or take a sip from that mega potion. In the end, no matter what style you choose, all of them allow you to jump in and shield others from dangers. They might thank you with love. Whatever you think of love, expressing it can be either amazing or bitter till the very end. You may not be able to control the power within, but it is always for you to decide. Protect or pierce through what lies ahead.